How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good.
It must be very hard to promote something that's awesome.
So easy. I mean, it makes your life so much easier.
It's like you're on a little bit of a roll recently. It's you're enjoying being in really good movies.
I'm trying. I don't know. I feel like there's only a very specific kinds of films being made now, and just being in movies, period, is sort of a blessing, because TV is eating up a lot of sort of cool stuff. So, but a chance to work with somebody like Ridley Scott, and it's something you can't pass by if it comes your way.
I definitely want to know, for you, the book is so popular and everyone loves the book. When you get cast, is it an immediate, I got to dive in, I got to learn everything I can learn, or is it pretty much, I'm going to work with the script?
No, 100%. I mean, if there's a book, of course, you got to read it. And there was a lot in the book that kind of informed all of us about our characters. You have to. I mean, that's kind of, you want to go to the root of this, of where it comes from. Andy Weir wrote such a specific book. I mean, the language, the terminology, everything was so relatable. I kind of finished in, I think, 2 days. So, yeah, it was great.
Talk a little bit about working and collaborating with Ridley in advance of the shoot. Is it one of these
things? Not at all. It was a phone call that kind of went, hi, Ridley Scott's doing his next movie in Budapest. You should go, if there's a part that's not cast. I think you're right for it. Go in, audition, like, can you do it tonight, kind of thing. And you can't read the script, and you'd have to leave next week. And so I was sort of like, okay, awesome. Oh, and by the way, this is sort of like what the character's like. So, yeah, I had no prior, check-in with him about anything. I just kind of went with the flow, and, just knew that he was attached, and that was enough for me.
I love Ridley's work, and he's such an awesome director. What did you take away from the experience working with such a master?
Oh my God, I mean, patience, and I think self-confidence as an actor. I mean, there's definitely truth to what he says when he goes, he spends a lot of time casting the movie, and then he kind of backs away. He sort of he casts the film, and then he just sort of lets you go to town. And it's tough for actors, because sometimes especially with a legend like that, you're so self-conscious, you're constantly just going up to them and hoping, like, hey, are you happy with what I'm doing? Is this great? Should I do it a specific way? Like, what do you want? You're just going and pleading to them. And Ridley's very much of the school of, you know what, you're here, you got this job, so now, like, go off, do what you want to do, and I'm going to try and capture it. So he's not so hands-on like other people I've heard are specific, like Fincher apparently, who is very, you got to do it this way and meticulous and so on. And so, yeah, just trust, confidence is an act, like, with him working was probably the most, that I learned, I think.
I definitely have to ask you, Winter Soldier, huge movie, so awesome. You have one of these parts that people just loved. How did it change for you sort of after Winter Soldier came out, in terms of people wanting to talk to you, in terms of the fan response? Did you notice immediately, oh wow, Bucky people really,
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's so different. Even, when we were at the premiere the other night, and seeing people dressed up in costume and stuff, especially because the character had, in my opinion, an introduction in The Winter Soldier. I mean, it was just sort of like a preview of the guy, which we get so much more of in Civil War, and I'm grateful for that. But to see that response to that was awesome, because it just made me think, like, wow, people really got behind the character, and that's what you're hoping for, and especially given that I didn't really have any lines to say or anything, which probably made it for the better, to be honest. But
well, I think that, and I actually wanted to talk about that specifically, is that you have to do a lot with your look, with the physicality of the role, rather than the delivering of dialogue. And I'm sort of curious how you sort of maybe got ready for that, and of course, how much more dialogue do you have in the subsequent movie?
I do. I mean, they gave me a lot more dialogue, and then then I thought, oh my God, it was so much better when I didn't have to say things. Now I really have to try and, but no, but it just, the look of the Winter Soldier is a very specific look. I mean, he, there was something very specific in how the guy looked and behaved, and I felt like, the more I stepped back and I just kind of let that do the work, the better it was going to be. And in a situation like that, you're sort of trying to guess like where the guy is at in his mind, and that certainly continues in the Civil War movie. You're always trying to guess sort of what side is he on, or where is he, because he can go both ways. I mean, that's me being really lucky with a character like that, where you can kind of, I mean, they could write something for him tomorrow where he could, he could be the worst assassin, I mean, the worst terrible villain killer, whatever, or he could be like this guy who is endearing, or, is trying to rebuild his life. So there's a lot of stuff to go, there's a lot of places to go with the character, and that's exciting.
Well, I think that also excites fans too, because he's such a wild card, because you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I kind of like that he doesn't really have superpowers. I mean, he's got this metal arm and stuff, and sort of the serum situation, but he's sort of just a dude. I mean, it's just kind of funny, placing him next to like the Scarlet Witch or something, where she's got all this stuff, and he's sort of, I'm going like, what is he going to do? He's just going to block a lot of stuff with his metal arm, But I think it's good. It's relatable. He could die at any point.
When did you know that scene would be after the credits in Ant-Man?
Like 2 days before, we were on set, and somebody went, "Oh, by the way, do you know that there's a thing at the end of Ant-Man, and you guys are in it?" And I was like, "No, I don't, but I'd love to go see it now." So I know what we shot, and it's kind of interesting because we shot that scene in early May, so it's interesting that they decided to use that.
Yeah, I heard that scene, I don't want to ruin anything, because I'm not a spoiler person, but I did hear that scene takes place in like the middle of the movie or something. It's like not at the beginning of the film, in terms of Civil War.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the middle. Yeah, that makes sense.
There's just a lot going on,
There's a lot going on, but that's amazing. That's a thing that the writers did so well. I mean, they were able to put together a 2.5 hour movie where all of this stuff happens, and it's still a very character-based film. I mean, I know everybody's treating it like, there's all these Avengers in it, and it's like Avengers 2.5 or something, and there's an element of that, but it's still, at the end of the day, very much of a Captain America film. Like, it's different from the Avengers. It's definitely its own entity. It totally connects to the last Winter Soldier film. So, and the Russo stamp is all over it. So,
yeah, I cannot wait, because I think the reason why the Marvel movies are so good, especially Winter Soldier, is that Winter Soldier is a 70s political thriller that happens to star Captain America. And what I'm curious about is what kind of take is Civil War in terms of, because it's obviously going to be a reboot and a reinvention. You know what I mean?
I know. I'm sitting here like listening to you, and like I'm thinking, I'm like, do I want to fire some shots at DC right now and Zack Snyder? I read some of those comments where you said something about Batman and Superman. I can't remember where I read that somewhere, about like, it's not going to be your flavor of the week Ant-Man. And I was like, oh, thanks, Zach. That's great. Like, way to do something original. But I would say we're still making something very original in our own way. I mean, the Russos are coming in and they're taking something that people are used to, and they're shaping it up and changing it in a very different way. They're not trying to mimic a better Christopher Nolan movie or anything like that. Yeah, no,
I think the Russos are fucking amazing, and I think that I'm so happy they're doing the next two Avengers, because I think that they're going to be knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Marvel's very aware of its capabilities and its brand. Like, I mean, it's like this weird flower, that you're watching grow and expand, and people are just going, okay, how do we make it better? How do we, the light's different now. Like we gotta continue make a difference or changing it up or something. And I think they're definitely much more original that way.
I'm almost out of time with you, so I'm very curious. I'm assuming that Bucky is definitely a part of the next 2 Avengers movies.
Again, it's totally not something I know for sure. Like, it's a blessing and a curse. I mean, sometimes I wish I knew to sort of get my life back together. I'm like, oh, I might as well just not cut my hair at all, but I really don't know. I mean, it's so early to know that, but hopefully,
That's actually my last question. It's about the hair. It's almost like Bucky in Winter Soldier has like this anime-ish kind of, hair. How much was that you? How much was that the Russos? And how much does that style that he had play into Civil War?
Well, I mean, the thing is, the character had to be familiar. You couldn't necessarily have him just immediately go to just like a short look. I mean, not enough time has passed, and but he definitely has like a look to him, and that's cool, and he definitely stands out a little bit among the other like short haircuts or whatnot. But
you know what I'm talking about with the Japanese anime haircut with the hair in the face.
It's true. I mean, they're so specific, and by the way, that's why like Thor has long hair, and that's why a lot of comic book movies. I think it was on The Crow they did that, but that's not a comic book. But and I finally asked somebody about it, and they told me, they were like, dude, it's just so much easier when you're drawing comic books to give the characters long hair because they just look epic. They're like in the middle of a fight scene, and the hair is like all over the place, and like you can tell, when they're flying or when they're falling or when they're, so that's kind of like the reason why a lot of these characters have long hair. I mean, I'm just happy I lucked out with it. It's definitely like a bitch over time to have, but
I experience it every day.
Yeah, I know. You're like, you got the Lex Luthor look.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love waking up like this.
I know. It's boom, done. You're out of that. You brush your teeth and you're out.
Exactly. I got to go. I really mean this. Martian is fantastic.
Cool, man.
Cannot wait for the next Marvel movie.
Oh, cool.